Clubhouse.
Jill, ask them what they think about supervillain.
That sounds better to me. More exciting.
Do you prefer saving America? How about saving the world?
Nope. It's saving America.
Welcome back to Podcast V, where we'll be discussing the current episode of The Boys. This is going to be the 7th episode entitled, Here Comes a Candle to Light You to Bed. Just rolls right off the tongue. As usual, I'm here with Kat from the Latinx Lens podcast. Hi, Kat.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's a kind of an easy day so far. Got a couple podcasts or interviews out earlier for the Pod Clubhouse network, so I'm generating content. So it's
Excellent.
Great. Yes. And also with us, as usual, is a much more down-to-earth and slowed down, COVIDized Inez.
Hi. Maybe people won't have to slow down the speed to get through what I have to say. I'll be tamed this time.
They understand. They can get you. It's their loss to not have Inez at full speed.
Oh, you just wait for when we get to episode 8. I'm fully in. I don't care what this virus has done to my body.
She'll leave it all on the podcast.
I'll die for that episode. I'm just kidding.
Well, where should we start, guys? I think I have an idea where to start, but it kind of is at the end.
Ooh.
Mainly because one of our number nailed a prediction.
Yeah. Woo woo. Give Kat a round of applause.
I'm so
well
proud.
Earned, Kat.
I'm so proud of myself.
Great job. I mean,
Yeah.
you mentioned that it was a trope as old as time, because I just edited that bit, so I remember it. But still, its application makes total sense. Now, whether or not it's absolutely true might be for like Edgar or somebody like that to totally reveal to us. But this is where we are now.
The teasing of it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I'm pretty convinced this is legit. Yeah, there's nothing about that scenario and thing that makes me think otherwise. Soldier Boy. Okay, totally. I'm Team Soldier Boy, all the way. I love him. And he's a straight shooter. He doesn't waste time with his breath at all. If there's a conversation to be had, as soon as it deviates a microsecond from his agenda of what he needs to cover, he will cut you off and move on. He's bold and cuts you off and then just takes care of what he needs to do. So I feel like he's not one to waste time in this space here. This is going to be very interesting.
What that means to come, though, is super scary. What if they team up? Things like that. They didn't need to take him out because he would have wanted to see a son of his excel into the spotlight. The concept of that and feeding that missing part of Homelander where he doesn't have parents, but I think he really, really wants them. I think he does. With the milking scene, for as yucky and bizarre as that was, there's something very mom about it.
Comfort. Yeah, it was a comfort thing for him.
Right.
Because he was almost having a panic attack. This is the most we've seen him that he just feels lost. He's not even conniving. He's just really just trying to get his shit together, or he can't get his shit together. And then he saw that moment of comfort, so he went and got the milk. And I was what is it? And animals this season.
I'm really glad though that they did not have him put his mouth on the udder, because I'm
I was worried about that. Yeah. I was worried about it. I mean, him just kind of getting off on squeezing it was already enough.
Inez, in the director's chair, you'd be like, Anthony, we need. Can you give us a take with your mouth on the teat?
They probably did that though. I need to see the outtakes. They probably did do a take on that.
We're we already have another octopus scene this episode, so let's just keep it PG here.
Oh my God, with the octopuses, octopi, whatever the correct plural is.
Octopuses. Oh, that's so bad. No, that's bad. I don't want to encourage this.
I don't know if you guys noticed, but Anthony Starr is coming to our meager little Houston Comic-Con later this summer.
Ooh, you got to go.
Yeah, I think I will have to go. I was only planning on going like a day, but depending on his availability, I might have to alter my day because sometimes they don't stay for the whole thing.
Yeah, that would be really fun. He's like seriously an amazing villain. This character is a great character.
I will say, I mean, deviating a little bit, but we can get back on track with Homelander. Like, this had really good Anthony Starr and then also Carl Urban, like what they were both having to do, like hold in their as the characters and then hold it in. And then they have to like switch their like the little sly grin or something both of them are just doing such amazing work. It was so good.
Yeah, Carl Urban hasn't needed to give his whole range of acting ability in this role. He's only really needed swagger.
Yeah. And then this one we saw a peep of like I think there was like a theme of vulnerability for, we're seeing the cracks more so than we usually do. For both of them, it felt like a parallel of like Homelander and Billy. And so we saw really what's going deep down inside and then like the facade that they have to put on for themselves and for others. And yeah, the way they were just able to kind of like snap, it was like really scary.
You could probably draw some other parallels there. We got a deeper view into his home life, the little brother, the father, the idea that Homelander came from no parents and is the way he is. And then Butcher's not exactly someone that you'd want your kids to grow up to be. Now we know that having parents isn't exactly the golden ticket either, given the way that his dad treated him and his brother. But anyhow, I wanted to mention that up front with the correct prediction from last episode for Kat, and I didn't want to bury the lead that you nailed it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
You know, and while we're on here, though, is there like a revoke the applause thing that we can add for me here? Because A-Train came back.
Oh, I thought he was dead too. Yeah. So there's, let's see, what do I got here?
English, motherfucker, do you speak it?
That's the closest I got.
I will take it. That, like, I was in that oh fuck like moment during that scene there, and I was like, wow, we really prematurely celebrated on this, and I did not see this coming at all.
Yeah, what a horrible thing.
I mean, I thought it was a really epic end to A-Train. I thought, okay, this is like really fucking cool. The way he killed Blue Hawk there was probably one of the few times that we really got to see like what he's capable of when he's like actioning his superpowers himself. And I've never seen anybody get killed like that. And I thought that was like really fucking cool.
The Flash has never done that. No.
So I thought, okay, this is a really great like way to close his story up. Let me see like what he really can do. And then he had his like little character arc and whatever. But yeah, now this dynamic of this next story part here, I am super curious how it's going to play out.
Were you A-Train and you had Blue Hawk's heart allowing you to have your power back, but it came from this racist guy that crippled your brother, would that fuck with you? Or would you just be like, I got a great new heart?
I don't know. Maybe, I mean, it did seem like it bothered him a bit because it's a little bit unnerving to have someone that was racist and then have that heart in you, like, ugh, kind of like a hibbity jibbity thing. But then like on the other side of that, like these heroes are very much like, you know, egotistical and they think about themselves. And so I feel like there was also a moment where we saw A-Train sort of have this like, because he started going along with Ashley, you know, he was like perplexed, he was grossed out, or like kind of it was
disgusted.
Icky to him, disgusted, yeah. And then he kind of had that moment of like, well, fuck it, like now I'm back, you know. So I don't think it's gonna be the same A-Train from like the first episode, but you know, like the completely just thinking about himself all the time. But I do feel like now that he has the power back, which again is another parallel to like Kimiko in here, like we're seeing people get their powers taken away and then bringing them back, which is I think is a really fun, interesting dynamic to kind of see people how they really act when they're at the end of the road, and then what are they going to do when they actually get it back, whether it's by their choice or not. So I guess for A-Train, he thought it was the end, but now he has a new lease on life. So what person is he really going to be, and is he going to go back to being what he was, or is he going to be a better person, you know? it kind of poses a lot of interesting questions for the next episode or the next season that we know that's going to happen.
That's a big question that you just mentioned, the idea of having powers thrust upon you and you just have to deal with it. That's your life now, versus having them taken away and then choosing to have them back. Does that turn you back into the same person you were? Or is it now that you've made the choice that you feel, I don't know, there's like what you've recovered some missing agency that you didn't have before, and that makes you a different person now, even though, you know, biologically and mentally and all that, you should be the same, but there's some emotional component that makes it different. I don't know that A-Train's going to be done thinking about where this heart came from, kind of the duality of, you know, having his life back, but at the cost of something terrible inside of him.
I feel like he was like in a private space with just him and Ashley. He could have been very authentic about his thoughts and feelings in that moment, right? Like there's no need for him to censor himself or his thoughts. So if he was really unhappy, like angry about it, an unhappy kind of thing, then he would have said it because he could. There's no cameras on him, right? He just kind of right away like embraced, yes, I totally did not murder him, and he totally died from Soldier Boy, and yes, and I'm going to keep living my life the way that I want as part of the Seven. I do think he will think about it, and it will like continue to bother him, but I don't know. I still feel like he's very consistently like about himself and his agenda, so he will sacrifice. He'll do whatever kind of moral self-sacrificing he needs to do to keep that treasure going for himself.
It's like he has an opportunity to be a better guy, but ultimately he's probably still going to be a shitty guy at the end of the day. Another character that got a short bit in this episode was the Deep. Again, he's just kind of the buffoon, right? Are we supposed to be getting a lot out of the Deep here in his request for open marriage?
Open species marriage.
Right.
Oh, God. I don't think so. I mean, it really was just fluff in this episode for him, and it has been for the season. I think it's posing, since A-Train didn't die, I think one of the heroes that we've been with has to die. And I know it's too early for predictions, but I feel like maybe this is setting it up. Maybe in the season finale, he could be the one to go. And then I hope it's from Starlight. Like, I hope he's like collateral damage and dies in a really stupid way. Like fitting for his character, because it feels like that's like he's not really doing anything. He's not really he's not really doing anything. I know when they find out what happened to Timothy, they're gonna like go against him. Actually, that would be the better way. It would be all the animals that would take him over. Like Starlight pushes him into the aquarium, and then like, you know, they attack him. So I feel like he's just a supporting character, and like he's not really of use to Homelander right now. Like Homelander is just, he can fend off anything he needs to for himself. So like, I really don't know why he's there. So I feel like it's just him being set up to just fall or die really badly.
Yeah, I wouldn't care if he died. I mean, that's probably why he won't die. You know, he has.
Right.
That's true. Like so insignificant. Like you don't even get to die. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess just for completeness, we had to mention him because there's plenty of more to go on with.
Yeah, I am like kind of over the same story that we get from him so far this season. Like, I feel like it's played out too much now. So I don't know why. Maybe it was a contractual obligation that they needed to have him for a certain number of minutes in this episode, and that's what they came up with. I don't fucking know. I just know like it's not as entertaining anymore, and it's kind of like just weird. But you know what? Like maybe I'm supposed to be feeling this way because they're setting something up for later. I'm supposed to feel this annoyed about it, and it's going to shock me with something else. They're going to give me something really cool maybe in next episode.
Cross your fingers, because his story has been built around just sort of like Kat and I were going on about it in the first season that we covered the show was, can he be redeemed? And then I think we settled on we don't even care anymore.
Yeah.
And so with that lack of interest and motivation, it's just like he just sticks around just to have octopuses do stuff to him. Next they'll be jacking him off. You know, it'll be a different take on the same thing. Another character that had a minor plot in this one was Noir. This was very cool to see what goes on in his mind. We don't really know, but we suspect that he might not have been totally, sharp and with it intellectually in the first place. But after the Nicaraguan incident and he got his head, something happened to his brains. He's probably less sharp now. But the story told by his animal friends made it sound like they had been a part of his life forever. I was expecting the animals at some point to, I don't know what, turn somewhat sinister or mean with him, so like tell him to get his ass in gear. I don't know what, but the fact that they stayed always like a Disney,
like a comfort,
right? The Snow White's animal friends the whole time. It was a new take and it was unexpected. I enjoyed those little sequences, that alternate take on seeing like the eagle, obviously, the soldier boy. What did you guys think of Noir and his the way that he sees the world?
Well, first, I think it's really funny how you're like, something happened with his brain. Like, we didn't fucking watch his brain get bashed in. Oh, yeah, just a little something, Paul. Like, his fucking brain popping out of his skull thanks to Soldier Boy.
Wound.
Oh, my God. I really loved how they were telling this story because we've gotten to see a couple of ways of how these characters have been processing their inner dialogues, right? We got to see the mirror with Homelander, and then there's somebody else. And my brain's really foggy right now. But and so this one was kind of
Butcher with his mind trap, whatever.
Yeah. So just like continuing like theme of like getting to see what's going on inside people's head that you want to see. And his obviously super unique. And anytime that I can see and watch cartoons act in a very unconventional kind of way, I really enjoy. So yeah, this was a really great like storytelling just to like get insight into like the reason why everybody was so fiercely afraid of Soldier Boy, why Noir would go out his way is cutting something out of his arm and disappearing because were tormented by him and really horribly. Gosh, like it was so bad. Every single time I watched that eagle just like pounding into like any of them, it was so horrible because I'm remembering like this is representing what a real human did to another human, right? So this is what happened to Noir, and it was, oh man, it was really cool. I really loved the perspective. They said something like, I guess his connection with that place goes into childhood because he paralyzed his first person there as a kid. So it's just kind of like a place that he feels like safe hiding out in. It's abandoned. So like, okay, that's cool. Like, I'm glad he's got his place that he can like actually talk to people or whatever they are, right? The cartoons, talking to himself, but he's able to decompress in some kind of capacity. It was just really cool. I don't know what else I really have like to say on it other than I'm really grateful to be told that story, which we already kind of knew, but I don't know, just gave us so much more imagination that we can apply it, and I appreciated it. So well done, writers. It's
something kind of concerning though, if you want to think about it or overthink about it. The fact that he sees the world like this implies that he's got a childlike mind, and we know that he has been manipulated by Edgar and Homelander in the past to do some pretty nasty stuff. Remember the episode when he was sent to try to take out Butcher and Hughie at that house, and he kind of almost takes the whole house down trying to get in at them. But he's mentally and emotionally, apparently, very young. There's something very, very sad about that.
Yeah, that is sad. But it's the boys. Like, you can't expect anything else. Like, I did love the cartoon, and it was really well done. And I don't know, I love that they kind of brought that in, especially since like I am feeling the same way that Inez is about like the deep and that same storyline. So I like that like while they had him continuing to do the same thing that he does and be annoying, then we had like this noir cartoon in the mind kind of thing, which is really interesting. And then also with Billy, like there was actually a lot going on, but it wasn't confusing or it wasn't too much in this episode.
No, yeah.
So I really like that. But when Soldier Boy has been coming on, he's been having this quality, because we don't really know who he is. I mean, we know who he is, but like I have such tropes of the superhero in my head of like, oh, is he going to be good or is he going to be bad? Like I have this kind of like binary view of it. And then I was like commenting to my husband and I was like, wait, but this is what they're trying to show us of like, and then it was even, I forgot what the guy's name, like the former Vought guy or whatever. He was like, it was sort of like the metaphor to America, like, oh, we just like want to find the hero. We want it to be easy. And, we forget all the bullshit that happens and just kind of like cover it under the rug. And then we just want to have that like, heroic thing and be like, we're the best. Right. And then I was like, that's how I've been kind of interpreting Soldier Boy, where I was like, oh, he's actually like, he's doing, I get it, And then I was like, wait, no, like he's like done fucked up shit and he's not good. And I was like, but it's sort of like that thing that The Boys does really well of like, this is what have been thought of, like thinking about superheroes for so long. And then like, they're really kind of messes with you, like they're also like mind fucking us too, because I was just like had that epiphany when I was watching this with all these like different insights to everyone's mind, and then like that Soldier Boy thing, and then what they were telling us with we like to find a hero, and I was like, yeah, I was trying to make Soldier Boy a hero, and I was like, he's not.
Well, that's a good point. There's the boysness of having a childlike mind in a character like Noir. But that doesn't mean that as a hero, as a fan of other superhero media, that why would I assume that other superheroes out there don't actually have the same kind of emotional capacity and outlook on what they interpret from the world around them? That's kind of a fresh take, that why wouldn't they have that same kind of situation? What do you think about the advice that his friendly forest woodland creatures give him about confronting Soldier Boy?
I'm terrified. I wouldn't do it. I'd be like, you know what? Why? Like, why do I need to go confront my abuser? I'm safe. I'm doing my thing over here now. I like don't need to like go throw myself in that line of fire. I wouldn't do it, but what do I think about what they're saying to do it? It's him telling himself that he should do it for whatever reason. I don't necessarily think it's like great advice. I think he's going to, because the show probably like needs him to have some kind of confrontation with Soldier Boy, since Soldier Boy's going to find him probably anyway, since he is being hunted. I don't think that there's any real reason, any real healing to come out of that.
Yeah. Maybe it goes back to the theme of like the choice. So he knows this is inevitable probably. And so he's like, you know what, if I go, I know I'm probably going to get my brain's going to get smashed in again by a Soldier Boy, but it's going to be on my terms in some way. Like he's going to go confront him to maybe have some sort of closure, in a weird cartoony kind of way that he can make sense of if we're going off this like childlike thing. But it seems like instead of being hunted, which is vicious and not fun, from what I guess, I don't know if he knows what's happened to the others, but he ran away, so he knew what was going to happen. Maybe it's just sort of like having that moment of like, well, this is going to happen, might as well just accept it. It seems like he's making peace with it, and maybe that's what like his friends were saying, like if we're assuming this is his mind and what is going on, it's like he's just kind of coming to terms with like, I'm going to die horribly, so let me just go do it.
Let me go out fighting kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess so. I mean, that sounds like what makes the most sense. I think I'm just, I'm the type of person that tells my husband, right? Like if there's a zombie apocalypse, just let me go. I'm not interested in trying to survive daily anxiety of that. So if I'm Noir, like I'm not interested in going to confront that. My therapist said I don't have to confront my abuser. So that's what I'm going to do. But oh, man, in this case here, I feel like Noir, it sets Noir up that he's going to be probably one of the heroes that does die.
I mean, how does he not? I mean,
right.
He has unfinished business with Soldier Boy. Soldier Boy wants to kill all of his old team. And then he left Homelander kind of holding the bag after Homelander confided in him that he's the only one that he can trust. So now with the potential team up of could be father and son, and he more or less, on some level, betrayed them both, that's not a great place for Noir to be,
No.
you know?
Nor it isn't.
Oh, I love that one.
Nice.
I mean, do you think that Noir knew? Because why would he run away from Homelander? I mean, I guess to really go deep in hiding because he didn't want to be there. But like, maybe he kind of knew about the father thing, if that's true. But maybe that's reading too much into it. Maybe he was just more of like the dynamic of he screwed Soldier Boy over, and then he just wanted to be away from all that.
I think Edgar knew his capabilities and made him part of the abduction, but he didn't know why that Soldier Boy needed to be abducted. He just knew that he was part of the abduction.
But maybe like Mindstorm knew it because he like read Stanley's mind, maybe. Like not because he was debriefed about it.
He did have some more generalized psychic abilities besides the mind trap. He did mention something about
He could
Billy's...
see all your dirty thoughts.
Yes,
Like,
well, he could tell that Billy wasn't a great guy.
Yeah, that was like that was one of my favorite lines too. It's like he's a piece of shit.
Yes.
But like Soldier Boy did say he knows everybody's dirty thoughts, you know, when he was explaining like why he's like paranoid. He's like, you would be paranoid too if you can read everybody's thoughts.
I wish we would have had a little more time with Mindstorm, but that's a story for, I guess, a flashback, I guess. I think our main groupings now, we have the Hughie and Butcher group. We have Homelander still. We have and Starlight, although they kind of take different tracks at a certain point. And then Frenchie and Kimiko. Let's actually go with the Starlight, and Frenchie and Kimiko. We had, or some of us had mentioned that there would probably be a regrouping in this episode. I had thought it would be at the Flatiron Building, but in hindsight, that doesn't make any sense because they're not really friends anymore. There was a regrouping, but it was just at MM's divorced dad apartment.
Yeah, I think so.
Those are very small from what I understand. Let's move to, I guess, Frenchie and Kimiko, because their little story is pretty well contained in the decision to get the Compound V back, the Perma V. Do you support Kimiko's decision?
Yes, I do. Because it's always better to have powers. If you're always in a line of fire, which she was, right? No powers, still had to kick ass. So it's much easier to do when you have powers.
Yeah, I liked it. And I liked that it was that thing of like the choice, her choice this time, because she was struggling for the last few episodes or this whole season of, oh, the powers are the bad thing. The powers are the bad thing. And then I love that she finally realizes it's not the powers, it's what you do with them. And then I think that is what made her at peace with like getting them back, because she does need them. And then wanting to protect Frenchie. I just have to think, because there's a lot of people, I guess, like A-Train who lost his power and really wanted it back. And then now Kimiko, who lost her power. And while she enjoyed not having the power for a bit, she's lived this life, and to go back to just being normal, like, I don't know. I feel like she knew she couldn't do that, even though it was sort of like a dream or like the dance sequence sort of fantasy. But if it was you, like you've already experienced all that power, and like to just let it go, I don't know. It seemed a little bit far-fetched.
Maybe there's something freeing about what you were just talking about, the idea of going through that case, that scenario of losing your powers, that you'd been blaming the way that your life had gone on the presence of the powers, and then making a larger realization about, like you said, that the powers don't determine the outcome. Only thing that she can control are her own decisions. It's not up to the powers. And so that might explain why she's completely cool with getting them again, is that she has this new fresh outlook. She can help the boys, she can not help the boys, she can do whatever she's going to do, but at least it's going to be knowing that it was her decision rather than constantly feeling like this was done to her. Mm-hmm. It's a better place to be emotionally. I also would never want to be without powers. If I lived in a universe where I had the option to have powers, I would always choose fucking powers.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed them sharing her perspective of how things like felt for her, like physically, right? When she says, you know, I could never feel your arms before. They felt like bendy straws, gives you really cool perspective about like what her physiology is like when she's a soup. You know, and I thought that was super cool. I love that perspective stuff. So I'm really glad that she lost her power so that we can learn this stuff. I'm glad that she got him back. She's a badass.
Yeah, and then also it's a cool like sci-fi or like a what is it, like the world building of knowing now they've established that if you lose your power, if you get the compound V again, I guess you keep your same power. Is that what we're going with? Because she has the same power that we've
seen her heal back up.
Yeah, we don't know if to the full extent, but it seems like, I wonder if that's where they're going with it.
I think in a last episode, the legend, I think it was a conversation with the legend. I don't remember. My brain's shit right now. But I feel like I remember saying that the powers that they get is basically like, just kind of enhances what is already in them, like from their personality. Their personalities kind of warrant what the power is going to be. And if that's like part of your normal biological makeup, then it makes sense that you get your powers reinstated, that it's probably just going to like restart the same system.
But earlier in the episode, Homelander was like, or somebody was like, Soldier Boy is like kind of made most of these soups useless because I guess they have whatever. Right. But like, why wouldn't they just put Compound V again? Or do they not know that's an option, right? Like, I wonder if they, in Homelander's camp, they haven't figured it out, but I would think that they would have done that right away because that's what, I mean, did Kimiko even know it would work? You know, like, so she was kind of risking herself too.
She didn't. But I think with the case of those C-listers at Herogasm, I don't know all the rules about if you have powers, are you necessarily, affiliated with Vought? Like, it's hard to believe that the guy with the anaconda dick is like on payroll at Vought for something.
He's patrolling like Vegas or something. I don't know.
When they said that the blast took people's powers away, but we saw that guy running from the scene with his dick wrapped around his shoulders, I guess that meant that he was just stuck with this, 10-foot limp dick at that point.
Oh my God, that's funny.
Yeah, that is kind of funny, isn't it?
I'm going to have to go back and watch that. Because I think it also depends on kind of like where were they during the blast. And if you got hit directly with part of the blast or his laser, then you would have gotten it. I don't, because Kimiko lost it after she took like a direct hit. But Butcher was there and he was in like the laser and stuff like cut into the room that he was in with Eminem, but he didn't lose his power. Is it because he wasn't given a direct hit? Because not everybody can survive a direct hit. We saw those people disintegrate, but there are people that could take a direct hit and survive, and those are probably the ones that lost their power. And I'm sure that if Starlight and Kimiko were able to figure out, of course, Vought has like reinstated anybody else that that may have been meaningful on their payroll and given them their power back.
Well, like Blue Hawk, for instance, was a low-level hero, but when Vought called and said, you have to do this, apology, etc., he did it. He didn't do it well, but he did it. So maybe there is something, if you're going to practice as a vigilante, then you have to be under their umbrella. And that gets you like the license or whatever. I'm not sure. I'm just kind of making that up. But there's got to be some way to kind of regulate it. It'd be weird to be through a private company, but maybe they handle the insurance. I don't know. Anyhow, like there were several plot points that were fed by Kimiko's desire to get the V. One was sending Starlight back into Vought Tower and having her run into Homelander, but also to see the notes about the long-term or even short-term effects of Temp V. We weren't going to get that information otherwise, but we'd been guessing all along that Billy and Hughie's drug addict-like behavior was coming from something, and that there had been a deterioration of particularly Hughie's ethics and inhibitions and that kind of stuff. Now we know. It's bad stuff. Were you guys at all surprised to see that it had been documented and that it was like definitely a dead end? Like they should not be giving this to anybody.
I didn't think we were going to find that out right away. I really like that we did, and that it was up front already. And then I love the way that they also used it with like another question of like Starlight telling Billy like, hey, like, don't fuck this up, after he had this whole experience of like failing his brother, and then we thought he was going to have this epiphany, and then in boys fashion he doesn't tell Hughie, although that might not necessarily be a clue, because he could just be like, oh, go help me get V, and then he might not let Hughie inject it again, because if he were to tell Hughie in that moment, it feels like Hughie would be like, well, you can't do it either, because they both care about each other, but they're really shit at showing it. So I feel like this is Billy's way of like, on the surface level, it's like we're assuming that he might like let Hughie go do it again, but he just wants to get it for himself so he can save it, and he doesn't want Hughie to get in the way again.
Totally agree. I totally agree with that. That they were showing us something to kind of just keep cementing this idea that regardless of all that shit that we saw that Billy went through in his youth, that he is still just the guy that will do whatever it takes to win. And they showed us that. But I don't think that's the end of that story.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm glad that both of you do see that, because I didn't. I was like, Billy, you are a piece of shit. Because Soldier Boy was right. I thought, okay, Soldier Boy was right. He told Hughie, like, Butcher would be fine. Like, Butcher would like take this mission like to his death, and he's right. He's absolutely right, because Butcher now is going to take this V, knowing that he's very likely could die, and he is doing whatever it takes to do it. I don't see any reason or point of why he wouldn't tell Hughie that. It sounded to me that he was willing to still let Hughie take future doses. Maybe episode 8 will show me differently and show me like the version that you guys are thinking is probably likely going to happen, because it deviates from what you expect. And I'm kind of giving the perspective of like, this is like, in good old fashioned, I expected this kind of bullshit from Butcher still. And, and it was really frustrating. And you're right. Maybe I'm a little bit more open-minded now. Maybe it's because COVID, my COVID brain has me such on a limited lens right now. But I really was just like, Butcher, you're so annoying. Like, we get it. Like, you had this like really horrible like childhood upbringing. Like, so did like all of these people except for Starlight. Like, all of these people have had really shit upbringings. Like, Homelander didn't have a great life. He fucking had a shitty life. Like, I expect him to be who he is right now because of like how shitty like that is. And so I don't know. It's just like Butcher, like he had this, and he's still going through the same cycle. He got to see that in high def thanks to Mindstorm, and then he like isn't going to be like honest with Hughie after he's like, oh, I'm so sorry, Hughie, like, and no, like he has this guilt of responsibility over his brother's death, but he doesn't actually just like say the truth. I guess to me it doesn't make sense why you can't just say the truth and still just like navigate that with Hughie. Like, I feel like Hughie is like ride or die no matter what. He like went up against Soldier Boy like just to bring Butcher back. So it didn't make sense to me why Butcher would keep that a secret when he's usually pretty just a straight shooter. But the only thing that makes sense to me that if he's going to lie about it is because he is trying to like stay on mission with whatever it takes.
Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, he roofied MM. He might have some more Rohypnol laying around the old lab, you know? So I don't think we're done. I mean, that doesn't mean Hughie won't shoot up again. I just don't know that it will be like the good time backslapping shoot up session that we saw in Herogasm, you know? Like, man, knowing the risks. And like when they went to go get Mindstorm, Butcher only let his eyes glow for like a minute or for a second. And like, that's all he needed the V for. What a waste.
But that was a dosage went to good use.
Right. Exactly. You only get 3 to 5 of those before you die. I mean, we could count it probably, but if this is the 7th episode, I mean, he must be at 4, right? At least.
Yeah, I think it's 3, right?
If it's shaping up for the finale, it has to be like the last dose.
Close
you know,
to it,
like yeah.
They're in the threshold now. They're now in that 3 to 5 death range.
Let's continue talking about Hughie and Butcher and a little bit of Soldier Boy, since they were kind of a team. Man, I was really sold that that Soldier Boy had killed that priest and was totally wrong. They waited until the last second with the nun.
So good. That was such a great scene, and it does give lots of questions. What is it that Soldier Boy is constantly hearing? You know, did you hear that?
Good
did you
one,
hear
yeah.
that? Right. So what is that then? If he is like kind of is like actually put together because he got that right. He knows Mindstorm better than any of them do. And he got like those things right. What else is it that he's saying that is valid, and what does it mean? And so it just left me a lot more questions and curiosities to dive in on him.
I don't believe it is his PTSD that he is hearing things.
First of all, I don't have shell shock. Fuck you. One of the best lines ever. I love Soldier Boy. I am like all about Soldier Boy.
Oh. I think Jensen Ackles just plays it really well, and then like given all the stuff that he's done before, he's just so likable that's why I had that moment where I was talking about earlier where I was like, oh, like he's actually pretty good. I was like, no, like he's done fucked up shit. I was like, he is not the hero that I want him to be, but damn, I don't care.
I know, especially like seeing him like as the eagle, right? You're getting like a really authentic experience,
Hero.
but because it's kind of removed in this cartoon story, I kind of still don't care because I really love him in these other scenes. I just like the directness. I just love how he doesn't have time for any bullshit except for the bullshit he wants to do. And I did fucking love that first opening scene we see him in with old ladies, right?
Yes.
And then he's just like, you know, like they're like the older they are, like this like fine wine kind of thing. And I was like about that. I'm like, you know what? Like you would celebrate my body throughout like the whole time of our relationship. Like that's like amazing. Because you know, us women get like after a while, like our bodies change, especially after we have children, our bodies change. And like, you know, I'm not like super happy with what my body looks like right now. And Soldier Boy, I think he would honor my body. And I like that.
Oh man, that might make it into like a special clip just all by itself to send out onto the internet.
I'm fine with that. I mean, you can tackle his like picture, that scene, that gif from that scene, whatever. Like that. Yeah. I was just like, fuck yeah, you are pro women body. There we go. You enjoy my old lady body for the duration of our relationship. I'm cool with that.
It's hilarious. But in terms of
transition,
what he might be hearing, I don't have a lead on that. That's going to be one of those like dun dun dun, or actually, how's it going to go? Like, yeah, when we are told,
yes,
what he's been hearing in that moment before he hit the tripwire, there was some sort of shit coming out of Butcher's ear. Was that just side effects of the Temp V? Like,
oh yeah, because Hughie had it this episode before.
Ah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Do you think the flashbacks are actual memories, not manipulated by Mindstorm to make them any worse? Except, you know, the dialogue with the brother, because obviously he wasn't there to have that dialogue.
He like kind of mentioned it when he was talking to Hughie, like I've been in his brain and he's fucked up.
Yeah.
So it feels like maybe with people that like they're already tortured enough, like I bet he doesn't have to do much. Like he just lets the mind play with itself in a way, you know, like all the guilt trips, like he probably just sets it up for them to like be able to do that in the mind, but not like, I don't think he had to influence these two, like particularly like Nora or Billy. I think they have enough demons to do it themselves.
What about when Hughie is trying to deal with Mindstorm and he's kind of pleading with him that he's gone further than he thought he could in this heroing business, and he's way out of his comfort zone, and he doesn't want to expand his comfort zone into where he is now, and so he wants Mindstorm to help get him out of this situation, especially being around Soldier Boy. Was that manipulation, or was that finally the Hughie of old kind of cracking through?
I'm going to say Hughie of old cracking through.
All right.
And the reason why is It's because he was finally like alone. Like he's got his backbone when he has Butcher by his side and he has the V in his body. And then he gets really bold, right? And Soldier Boy puts him in his place like twice in a row about that really quickly when he tries to like roost up to Soldier Boy. And yeah, then he was like gone and he was like desperate. Like, I have nobody. Butcher is down. He's going to die. I don't want him to die. And then that's that. And there's that desperation. But then at the end, you know, the last scenes that we see, if he really meant that he's like, this is not the life for me. I need to get out of this. I'm not interested in being on front line anymore. Then he would have said that to Butcher. But no, Butcher's like, we're going to get more V and we're going to go finish the job. And he's like, hell yeah. It's like, where's this little bitch earlier, you know, like in the woods that was all like, oh man, I was totally wrong. I fucked up. I'm having a growth moment right now. Like, he's not though. He's, in the end of the day, his like authentic self is like a well-intended scared person.
Hughie's just annoying me because I think he's the most consistent kind of like, you know, like all his decisions are just so short-lived. Like he's only thinking about his feelings, even though he thinks he's thinking about other people's feelings. Like saving Starlight is the reason why he's taking V and blah, blah, and on this crusade. But that's not true. It's because he feels helpless and it's his thing. And then he has the moments where he's like, oh, fuck, I can't do this. Like, I'm really not a soup. I'm not really this. Like, I don't have the mental capacity. And it's like, yeah, we could have fucking told you that. So he keeps playing this like over and over again. So like when he did that scene when he was with his Mindstorm, because he has that like Jack Quaid, the actor, has that sort of like smile, like sinister. He could be like a little bit sinister if he wanted to play that, but like he's just been playing like the dork kind of thing. But like I was hoping that this would be the moment that he just goes full on and uses the power that he is on with V to manipulate Mindstorm, and then, you know, like we'll be like, fuck you, like I'm not going to take you and transport you. But then he was like, oh yeah, I got to do this, and then you know, he died from Soldier Boy. But I was a little bit disappointed that was not the case, that he wasn't manipulating him and that it was just old Hughie again, because I'm like, you keep doing the same thing expecting different results, and you also have lost Starlight in this process of you just being, you know, like having this insecurity issues. And it's sort of like he needs to have the Kimiko epiphany of like, it doesn't matter if you have V or no V, like he needs to go to therapy and get right himself, like, you know, feel adequate in his own body with what he's able to do, that he can't save people, it's okay, all that kind of stuff, because he just keeps doing the same shit over and over again, and it's annoying.
I agree with all that, Kat. I didn't think it was manipulation myself. When he said that he's tired of pretending, I think that was the first very truthful thing that he had said from his inner self in quite a while. And that doesn't mean that he's the OG Hughie is super aspirational character that I want to see come back. It's just more like the guy who is in love with Starlight but resents her power. That guy I can leave. I don't need that guy. I don't want Hughie to morph into that guy's future. With the end of their little story with Mindstorm, the Butcher group, they're still with Soldier Boy, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Seems like a bad place to be now.
Although I feel like Soldier Boy doesn't really care, because they're insignificant in a way, because they have to take Temp V to even be on his, I mean, not even on his level, just be able to be next to him, I guess. Mm-hmm. So it was telling that Soldier Boy, knowing that Hughie kind of betrayed him, he didn't kill him. He just hurt him, and he didn't do the whole blast to like kill him. And I think he knew that Billy probably didn't know what Hughie did, but I think he just doesn't care, because like Soldier Boy is set on his thing, and it shows that Soldier Boy isn't just like mindlessly killing as well. Like I think it's only when he has a mission or a purpose. So that to me is interesting. Like he could have just killed Billy and Hughie because like, you know, he doesn't really need them, but like he didn't. So that's where I was like, oh, the hero. But I was like, no. It's like, Kat, he's not.
he's got rules, right? And I respect that.
Yeah. It seems like there's a little bit of some sort of code.
Yeah.
I don't know.
A code helps create an anti-hero type character, which obviously good characters can have codes too, and bad characters also, but he's fitting more into that anti-hero, that you love to hate him or you hate to love him kind of thing, where they have their own strict set of right and wrongs that they don't cross. And this whole time, Inez, you've been describing that is the way this guy definitely operates. I think we're done with that group. I just wonder, with the proximity to Soldier Boy, like when Soldier Boy called Homelander, that might have been at the Legends place.
I paid attention the second time around that I watched it. Butcher tells Hughie, we need to go stop by the office to get more V. And then you, me, and like Grandpa or something, like, we'll finish the mission. So, okay. So I'm thinking they're in the same like place still. They're still like a little unit. And then it does look like the scene with Soldier Boy, that it has similar lighting and similar walls in the background. So I assume that they were like in the same space. I don't know necessarily that it's the Legends place, but I did get a vibe that they are still together. But I do have this curiosity, because he found out this information about Homelander in the field when he was still with them, and pissed off at them for like trying to sidewind his mission and for betraying his trust on like what the mission was. Mm-hmm. And so for him to choose to keep that Homelander bit information to himself and stay with them, I'm assuming is some kind of strategy, because he knows that Homelander is also the person that he has agreed to kill for them. So, now he's probably like, oh, well, let's see like what's going on here. Like, now I'm going to talk to my son about it and see if he wants me to give them to them. I don't know, like give him Billy and the kid.
And the kid, Billy and the kid.
Yes.
I'd like to expand on that in the predictions section, but before we finish up the review section, I think we still have a little bit of Homelander to talk about, in that we got to see Maeve.
Yes.
She's just in a cell, probably in the basement of the Vought Tower, if I had to guess.
Yeah, just a good old standard dungeon in the corporate offices.
What a interesting timing with we don't get political in this podcast, but it's just, the egg harvesting talk and all that is, they're always finding a way to draw out little parallels with what's happening in our world and the important factors of the day that people are talking about. And there is none that is being talked about more than reproductive rights. And that is happening right now with Maeve.
Like, she posed the question of him, like, why are you keeping me alive? Because like there's no point. And then it's always something more sinister, sort of like the A-Train getting, Blue Hawk's heart. You're alive, but you're also like, fuck, like, and then this one is, there's never a good twist in The Boys. And so then I was like, yeah, I wonder why. And then when he said like, oh, I would never force myself upon you. And then he's like, yeah, but I'm going to take your eggs without your consent and make babies. And knowing that would be Maeve's worst fear, like, she would be so disgusted by that, like to know that like those are going to be out in the world. And so just like another cruel thing, but also, yeah, very timely. I mean, it seems that there's a lot of play into like the father-son thing. And then also Homelander, like he wants to have a kid. Is it because the other kid didn't want him? So like is that going to be his way to find love, like make this baby, and he will be there for this kid and the kid will love him, because I mean, people do that, like, and we've seen it in other like media stuff too, or whatever, like movies and TV. It's like another trope is all this time you force all your expectations on a kid. It's
like Homer Simpson says, you can teach them to hate the things that you hate.
Yeah. So it seems like now, like, he's failed at love, like, because Stormfront was crazy. And then like all the other women in his life don't love him. So he's like, so I guess he was just like, this is going to be it. But now the fact that Soldier Boy could be his dad is like, I think, a wrench in his plan.
The episode starts with genetic engineering. It ends with genetic engineering. Somewhere in there, we know that Soldier Boy and Liberty/Stormfront were a thing. It's not really out of the boys' realm for Stormfront to be...
Stormfront. His mom.
Yeah.
And maybe she knew, and that's why she, in her own sick way, she was also like wanting him to succeed. And maybe that's why Yeah, and maybe it makes sense because that's why when he was like having all those issues, she could not. We thought it was more of like a love thing, like a romantic thing of him not being the leader of who she thought he could be. But then now if you could interpret it like as a mom and her being crazy of like wanting this, superior thing, and like her realizing that Homelander, he was not going to be the son that she wanted. Like you could interpret it both ways, and that's why she killed herself. She could not stand to see that.
Did you throw up in your mouth, Inez?
We said it in the last episode too, right? Well, like, since we know she's a co-founder, like, I wouldn't put it past the writers of this show to go ahead and give us that one. Let's just throw a little bit more incest in here. Why not? Gross. We got octopuses sucking dicks. Like, it's okay.
Oh my God. I'm not overly interested to talk about the parallels with Homelander and the rally he was at. Those are very obvious. I did like MM punching out Todd over it, though.
Yeah, no, I think that the question that I do get from that scene, though, is what is the address that Newman
Exactly.
gave him?
That is exactly where I was going. Is it possible that is Ryan's current whereabouts, or just another mystery that we'll get a little bit of information in, but maybe it's more of a season 4 mystery?
He seemed like he knew what the address was when she gave it to him. Like, he's like, where'd you get this or something? Like, there's no context on this piece of paper other than that it's an address and has a phone number on it. It doesn't say like Ryan's house, and then the address. It just has an address, and he reads it and he's like, seems to know what that address is like referencing, or is there some kind of unspoken thing here that I missed? I mean, I felt like maybe it has to be Ryan's address, but something about like his reaction, and it could just be me, right? Because my brain is like half fried after this week of recovery. So I'm really interested in what you both think.
Ryan came to mind first. I don't think he's given up on that. That's not really in his nature, I think, with the one thing that he still has some connection to. And also there hasn't been anything that I've noticed plot-wise that Homelander has been directing people to do or get information on. He has been able to produce information when he needs to, like the file that Edgar had on Victoria, or whatever information he could dig up on Edgar that let Victoria have him arrested, that kind of stuff. So I guess it's not far-fetched to think that if he needed some kind of secret information, like an address, maybe even Ryan's address, that it would just take a little time, but he could get it.
I don't know. It felt like it was a non-factor for me this season because, we haven't really seen much of Ryan and he's there, but just given who Homelander is, like the fact that Ryan didn't take to him and he kind of was appalled by him, and Homelander is sensitive in that regard of people not loving him. So I also feel like, yeah, he wants to have him in his life eventually to kind of like rule him. But I think he also, look, why is he going down this route of like wanting to make babies with Maeve? Because he wants to be there from inception and like raise him so he doesn't have to deal with like Ryan, who is scared of him or whatever, like the history of it. Mm-hmm. While he probably does want to know where Ryan is, I don't know if that would be like the thing that would get him like, okay, like really cool. Although it would throw a really interesting angle towards like, if Soldier Boy is Homelander's father, that means he would be a grandson. And then so if Homelander doesn't live up to Soldier Boy's expectations of what a son is, then maybe he would want to go after Ryan to kind of have that, like the grandfather thing. Mm-hmm.
With only one episode to go, there's only so much story that could be told in the next hour of The Boys. So let's move into our predictions section and discuss some of the stuff that we've been talking about. I don't know. I mean, we've kind of talked about different scenarios all season long about how this season might end, and something about the various possibilities, none of them feel like if they had to cancel The Boys after this season, the way that this season ends up from where we are now, it couldn't feel done, it couldn't feel complete because feels like there's so many stories left to tell.
I completely agree. I really don't like pretty much like all of Eminem's storyline this season has kind of, I feel like, has not done justice to the character as they've written in the first 2 seasons. I am genuinely like disappointed from a storytelling perspective of how they've done my guy there. And then also, you know, like the whole Ryan factor in this, Butcher being like really sweet and ordering the Connect 4 game and playing with him, and then like it's like completely like gone, forgotten. Like what memory of Becca is he trying to honor with this mission still? Like it doesn't make any sense to me anymore. So it just feels like I have more holes. So I agree with you. Like I would hope that there's more, especially with, I don't know if all of my questions can be answered or remedied in one more episode.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it. I haven't watched, but I foresee there's got to be another conflict. These seasons end. We watch to see the super powered people punch each other and do amazing things. So that's got to happen. But the dynamics of it and who's involved and all that, it ranges from the fight we've already seen, you know, Homelander, Butcher, Soldier Boy, and Hughie, to just about everybody, depending on how things play out. Are you looking for like a battle royale or more intimate conflict or some variation of that? Me, I like to see all the superheroes fight all the time. But
yeah, those are my favorite.
Right. Like Civil War, I love that. But in this, we got a little bit of that at the end of last season, if you recall, you know, everyone taking on Stormfront and the stuff that happened in the forest with Stormfront and Ryan and Homelander. But in this one, like, say A-Train is still in the hospital, so I don't know that he's going to be involved. Maeve is in a cell and nobody knows where that is except for Homelander, so I don't know that she's involved. The only really altruistic hero is Starlight, Annie, but I don't, you know, she's not enough. I don't know what the actual role that she would play in the conflict, because this really seems between those 4 guys. And now with the father-son element, I wrote in my notes that I believe that Hughie and Billy are in deep shit. So maybe her role might be to save their asses.
Maybe not necessarily like a guns a-blazing in the traditional way that we've had the season finales of The Boys. So maybe, yeah, it's going to be more of a mindfuck. Because Inez brought up the good point of Soldier Boy finding out that information that Homelander could be his son. Essentially was working to get rid of Homelander. He didn't really care to do that. He was like, I'll do this because these guys are helping me find these people, whatever, right? But then that changes the whole thing. And the fact that he didn't kill them knowing that seems like he wants to play that out or tease it out for his amusement or just in general to see like what kind of, I don't know if he needs to figure out like who Homelander is before he's like, okay, I'm going to go along with this, or yeah, I'm going to kill you too. So the fact that he wants to bring Billy and Hughie along is interesting. So there has to be some sort of showdown between the 4 of them. Because if not, then that's kind of disappointing. Because that's what it's been alluding to the whole season. Like they want to get Homelander, and they were so close in like 2 episodes ago. So I hope there's another showdown. I don't know if it's going to be as epic as that battle yet. I feel like maybe that would be for like an opening in season 4. But I feel like it's going to be more of like the mindfuck. Because like everyone is so vulnerable right now. Billy's vulnerable. He just had the vision with his brother. He's putting Hughie at risk. I feel like it's going to be something with Hughie probably being at risk again. Starlight, you know, trying to help save him. And then the dynamic between Soldier Boy and Homelander and what that would mean for Homelander. Because he's essentially wanted parents his whole life, and then he could possibly have one. So I think it's gonna be more of like him just breaking down in that arena than more of a fight. But there has to be some sort of fight because it's
gotta be punching. It's gotta be punching.
Yeah, I don't doubt that there will be a fight.
I think it's going to depend on what happens between the 4 of them, which I hope happens at the beginning, and then it'll set up the rest of that episode for an epic finale.
I mean, I'm kind of like annoyed with my good guys at the moment. I mean, I feel like there's definitely going to be a fight, like no matter what. Like, and all of the fights that we've been given, like the superpower stuff, like is so fucking cool. They're going to give us that. I don't doubt them, but I feel like I wouldn't be mad if my good guys got their asses kicked, and then that's how we end season 4, or what season is this? Season 3.
Yeah, season 3 still.
Oh, yeah. I just feel like there's so much disconnect on the good guy side. They're not like in any way kind of like set up for a strong opposition to this powerhouse. And the powerhouse group, or the quote unquote bad guy group, have just doubled their power, joining forces of Homelander. I feel like the Homelander Soldier Boy dynamic is going to fuse in a very bad way for our good guys. So I wouldn't be surprised if this epic battle did end up really sending the quote unquote good guys into a retreating kind of position for the end of this season. That would be kind of interesting and cool. I mean, I really love these villains, so I wouldn't mind this output at all, especially since all the good guys are annoying the shit out of me. They need to get smacked around.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if Jensen Ackles is locked in for more The Boys or not.
Well, I just saw that Jeffrey Dean Morgan could possibly be making an appearance in season 4, which was the dad of Supernatural. And they're really close, you know, off from whatever we see on Instagram and stuff, or social media. So if they get rid of Soldier Boy, or if like he bleeds into season 4 a little bit, then it would be awesome to have Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who played the comedian like in the Watchmen movie, the Zack Snyder one, and he would meld very well into the Boys world. So I hope they kind of do that. He does come in.
He's pretty badass in that role. The comedian.
Amazing.
I mean, it kind of like blueprinted for some of these Boys characters, I feel like.
I love that. I love that completely.
I don't know what the source was, but I saw like a headline, so it's...
I'm going to obsessively Google it.
Yeah. So it's not for sure, but I just saw like something and I was like, ooh, okay.
I mean, I definitely love the cast. Everything about this show is just so fun. It's so different. It's different than anything that I really have ever seen. And I really love the ride that this show puts us on. I know like I'm kind of like in my COVID fog today, I'm kind of like whiny against the people who are annoying me, but I still love the show. And oh my God, that would be a beautiful evolution.
Because if they can keep Jensen into next season,
oh my God, I hope so.
That would put the Boys in like we've thought that they were in pretty bad spots before, but if they had a father and son god level bad guys to go up against, I mean, that would create a situation for an even bigger payoff climax, however the season or the series were to end, needing to go up against both of those two. Maybe Jeffrey Dean Morgan doesn't come in on their side of it.
What if it's like the other way? Because we're assuming that's going to be like father, son, and team up, but like these are people who don't know each other and they're very different. So we get the inkling, like the line that Soldier Boy says, like, oh, I would love my son to shine. Like I would have stepped back. I don't think Homelander would do the same. And he knows that Soldier Boy is beloved in the public eye. So I don't think like he would want Soldier Boy to even be acknowledged that he's still alive, because in the public sphere, that would mean taking away from Homelander.
Take for him,
yeah. So I wonder if like, if they don't jive well together, if that means like they have to kill each other, right? Because like Homelander would not let him be the star of the show. So I feel like that would also be like a cool season 4 arc, or I don't know, maybe season finale. Yeah. And that would be better for the Boys in the sense of like if they had to like choose a side or whatever, blah, blah. But there would have to be something else, something more for season 4, because it can't just be like Soldier Boy, Homelander. Like that would be kind of boring, you know?
You could start to create like sympathy with Homelander depending on what their relationship went like, and that would kind of confuse people's opinions on Homelander even more than they are now, and that helps create watchable Boise TV. The great thing about this show is that so many possibilities are there, you can't even encapsulate them all, because what they've shown you before proves that they will not go where you think they're going to go, unless you're Cat and you make that prediction about the father of Homelander, and but the rest of us, Kat, just have to deal with.
Well, I'm usually like 95% wrong all the time with my predictions, so I'm I got one right. But I also have noticed like whatever the Boys gives you, and like in my superhero trope thing, I was like, oh, it's not going to go that way. So I'm trying now to think about like what would the anti version be, because they're not going to go the Marvel DC moral route. That's why it's like I don't think it's going to be father and son right into the sunset, you know?
No.
So that's why I was thinking like, okay, then that would mean, it would be war for them, which would be more fun for us to see.
If Soldier Boy got to know Homelander, despite whatever projections of, masculine qualities that they would share and value, I think ultimately he'd suss out the underlying insecurity. And I think he'd be pretty hard on him about it, given what we saw from like Noir's I don't know that it's fair to call those the flashbacks, but they were some version of the truth of what happened to him. Yeah, he didn't look like a guy that minced words.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I'm probably going to cue this up when we're done. Put my kids to bed, find something healthy and sweet to eat, and then watch the finale of The Boys. Because now that we've talked about it, I definitely gotta know how it's gonna end.
Yeah. So, and are there any like final rounds of predictions that we're gonna do right now? Because I got one.
Oh well, then
I don't get any more, but I want to hear yours.
Tee it up.
Okay. All right. So I read lots of articles related to the shows that I podcast on. One that I came across, I was very surprised. You guys might know about it, but apparently The Boys, they have powers in the comics. They're not normal people in the comics. And so I thought, I foresee like the way for them to live through this temp V like pending doom upon them is that they have to get injected with permanent V. And I think they become permanent soups.
That's a good prediction. I hope that happens.
That would be how they could potentially defeat two like powerhouse villains.
It almost writes itself, right? They've got to level the playing field. They just finding random weaknesses like they had been doing with Frenchie. That was like Frenchie's deal, right? It was like he could figure out weaknesses and exploit them and that kind of stuff. But now they're dealing with the very upper echelons of heroes that they're trying to take down. Maybe even the temp V kills you, but maybe the compound V brings you back.
It healed all of Kimiko's physical injuries too. So if they get injected with the permanent V, I could see that taking care of their like brain tumors.
Whatever ill effects they've suffered.
Yeah. Well, I think that it's like, I think that I paused the scene like where Starlight is in the lab, and I paused it every single time I could, like on the notes. So I read like it creates like fast growing malignant like tumors and all of this stuff. So yeah, so that's a lot of damage that their brain took. That's a physical injury. And I think permanent V could reverse that and then make them permanent superheroes.
And that would actually be a really good season finale, because it could be something where maybe the only way that Starlight could save Hughie if he injects one more time is to give him permanent V. And then that would be like a whole thing. And then that would be their whole mission of what they were trying to do has been lost, because now they have like really gone to the dark side. So that would really be a fun season 4 setup of like that. Now the ones that didn't want powers and wanted to eliminate them have them because they wanted to eliminate, like it's just going to be a whole moral thing or whatever.
But it's
so
also like fun. The only way to survive, right? Because they do have these tumors already exist in their brains. Like these things are already growing and causing issues. And, it's not normal for stuff to be leaking out of your ears.
No?
So yeah. Except for wax. But this was not wax. This is definitely not wax. So they've taken a minimum of at least 3 dosages that I can recall, right? So they are definitely in, and it's not reversible. So I feel like the only way that they could survive and come back for a season 4 is for like a very kind of like miracle reversal. And the only thing I can think about is Kimiko had leftover serum in that vial. They only used, some of it. They didn't use the whole thing. So I don't know.
And they made sure we saw that shot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We saw the big full vial still on her table when she was healed up.
Oh, I don't have anything that could top that, Inez. That's perfect.
Woo. Let's see. We'll see how it goes.
All right, guys. Then our penultimate episode coverage of The Boys Season 3. If people wanted to find you, Inez, on the interwebs, where would they look?
I am on Twitter at NeezyThinks, usually tagged on all the Pod Clubhouse episodes that I'm working on. And then you can find me also lingering in The Boys Facebook related like group discussion stuff, and just reading a lot of commentary and reading a lot of articles in there.
Same question, Kat. If people wanted to find you, where would they look?
Yes, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Things Cat Loves with the C.
Things Cat Loves with a C. And I am at Paul V. Daley on Twitter, or at Pod Clubhouse on Twitter and Instagram, or at our website, podclubhouse.com. If you like this podcast, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe to it on iTunes or Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts so other people can find it as well. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for listening. This has been an original Pod Clubhouse production. Pod Clubhouse is a podcast network dedicated to encouraging collaboration among podcasters and friends to bring a fresh voice and diverse perspective on a wide array of content. Please visit and leave a comment for us at podclubhouse.com. Rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast feeds on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can find us at Pod Clubhouse. Our DMs are always open, and we'd love to hear from you.
Pod Clubhouse.